All right, it's your boy Akin representing the Football Source. Pro Football Exclusive. Just recently, we have decided as a team to change our name to the Football Source, and I'm here to give you a recap of Week 1 of the college football season. What an amazing and very concerning week for some of the top teams amongst the nation. Now, there were a couple of the top teams did have some wins, but they were not impressive. There were some unimpressive victories we saw this past week. Now, I'm going to start with the top teams in the nation. First of all, the number one team, Florida State, they actually escaped Arlington, Texas with a 37-31 victory over Oklahoma State. Quarterback Jameis Winston went for 370 yards passing, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, dropping his stock for this year's Heisman just a little bit, but they did pull off with the escape victory. They were actually ahead for most of the game, but the Cowboys decided to come back, coming towards the second half, and just missing out with the final minutes of the game, giving the nose with the victory. Number 2, Alabama, the second ranked team in the nation, they played against West Virginia. Now, last season, West Virginia went 4-8 overall last season. Now, I thought this was going to be an easy win for the Tide, but I was actually wrong. They did pull the 33-23 victory, but West Virginia was actually fighting throughout the game, and I'm very concerned for Alabama, and they actually started quarterback Blake Sims over Jake Coker. Now, Sims with 250 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, but 1 interception. Now, he should start for the next upcoming week, according to Nick Saban, but I'm a little bit concerned for this Tide team, and they even lost 2 particular players, one offensively and defensively. They actually lost defensive back Jarek Williams, who actually fractured his foot, so he should be gone for the next at least 4 to 6 weeks. And they also lost starting receiver and DeAndrew White, who was second with 73 yards receiving in that matchup against the Mountaineers, and they just escaped with that win. I'm a little bit concerned, especially facing against the teams of the SEC West Division. This is a little bit of concern, but they're going to have to turn things around. Same for Florida State. Hopefully, they will improve for the next upcoming weeks before they come into more in deep into conference play. Other games that were a little bit of scares. Number 7, UCLA, they edged out Virginia 28-20. Now, they had a poor effort on the offensive side due to the poor play on the offensive line. So Brent Hundley, he was it's kind of terrible in that matchup, and the defense had to step it up in this matchup, in which they accounted for 3 touchdowns, 21 major points to edge out the Cavaliers 28-20. I'm a little bit concerned for this team overall, but the defense did well. Couple of other games that were concerned. Ole Miss did beat Boise State 35-13, but the game was pretty much tied up coming towards halftime. But then in the fourth quarter, Bo Wilds finally got his game together. He threw 3 interceptions in that matchup, but 387 yards passing and 4 TDs, and those TDs mainly came in the fourth quarter, and they finally pulled away. They came out with the guns. They reloaded at halftime. When it came to the fourth quarter, they just unloaded their guns, and the Rebels pulled off with a good win coming towards the end of the game. Number 6, Auburn, they were actually duking things out against unranked Arkansas. The game was tied 21-21 at half, but when Nick Marshall came in, they finally started getting more hyped up in the second half, and they actually held Arkansas to 0 touchdowns, to 0 points in the second half, and they pulled off a 45-21 win, but it was a little bit concerned at the first half, like the other key matches. A couple other games we need to talk about. Number 25, Washington played against Hawaii, and they barely won 17-16. Chris Peterson did win his debut as a head coach, but they barely edged out this Hawaii team, and they're going to have to improve offensively. Hopefully, they can get things together and bounce back for the next upcoming games. Also, an unranked team, Iowa, they squeaked past Northern Iowa 31-23. So we're starting to see a little bit of a trend here with some of these top teams, and the teams even in college football. This is going to be a very competitive year. It raised a lot of eyebrows and concerns, and even people are starting to question who will actually make this upcoming playoff. Now, I have some other games I need to talk about. The game of the week, LSU against Wisconsin. Now, I thought Wisconsin was going to pull this game coming towards the half. They had a great running back. They have a great running back in Melvin Gordon, 16 rushes, 140 yards rushing, and then he had a good touchdown run. But in the second half, I was really scratching my head and not understanding Gary Anderson's decisions in that second half. Now, with 22 minutes left in the game, Wisconsin allowed allowed the Tigers to come back with a 21-0 deficit and with 22 minutes left. And one thing that mainly concerned to me was Gary Anderson's decision in not allowing Melvin Gordon to get the football. Now, he actually started off the third quarter with a 63-yard run. 63, and he only got the ball 2 more times throughout the game. What was he thinking? Now, people were concerned a little bit for Melvin Gordon. They thought he had an injury, but Gordon even said that he did not have an injury. So we have some questions for Gary Anderson. He has some answers that he needs to fulfill for us, and real soon. That was just a terrible decision, not putting the ball in the hands of Melvin Gordon. And for this matchup, Tanner McEvoy was the starting quarterback for this game. Only 50 yards passing and 2 major interceptions. And the reason behind that is because there's an injury report with their quarterback, Joel Stavy. He's actually could be gone for the remainder of the season because he has an injury in his throwing shoulder, and that is going to be a big loss for on Wisconsin if he does not play for the remainder of the season. Now, I personally believe that if Stavy started in that game against LSU, I think Wisconsin would have pulled the victory. At least, and if not that, Melvin Gordon should have got the ball a lot more, especially after a big run against that Bayou defense. I don't understand why Gary Anderson came up with that idea and that decision. Now, I have a couple other injury reports I'd like to talk about, but I need to go back to these games and my other games I need to talk about. Now, Penn State played at Dublin, Ireland against UCF, and they avenged the loss. And this was the first game for new head coach James Franklin. Pulled off a 26-24 victory due to a last second field goal as time expired, giving James Franklin his first win as a debut head coach for the Nittany Lions, avenging last season's 34-31 loss. USC, they murdered Fresno State 52-13. Great play offensively. Now, this is a team I'm actually going to be looking more in the Pac-10, particularly in the Pac-12 South Division with UCLA and Arizona State. This is going to be a very competitive year in the Pac-12 South, and not to mention the North, but I think the South is going to be just a little bit more competitive with those 3 teams. Last but not least, Georgia, they crushed Clemson 45-21 due to the great play from a Heisman, my now Heisman frontrunner, Todd Gurley. 198 yards rushing and 3 TDs and 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, 4 TDs in total, and he's now my new frontrunner of the Heisman. He had a great performance in that game. Now, I need to go back I had to talk about my winning record. I started off this season 9-2. The 2 losses that I have was the game Georgia Southern against NC State. I predicted that NC State would lose that game, but they actually won. And last but not least, Miami lost to Louisville. I actually had Miami beating Louisville, but the Canes lost 31-13 due to a great play defensively from Louisville, and they actually had enough speed, great speed, to keep up with the Miami Hurricanes. I thought the speed for Miami was going to outduel against Louisville, but with Bobby Petrino returning back as a new head coach, he had the team ready. The offense was looking pretty good with Will Garner, the new quarterback for the Louisville Cardinal. He had a great game, over 200 yards passing in that matchup. So overall, this past week, I went 9-2. I think I started off the season off pretty well. Gonna give myself a pat on my back. Now, I have to go back to some of these injury reports. I already talked about the Alabama starters who's going to be missing, Jarek Williams and DeAndrew White. But for Wisconsin, I mentioned Joel Stavy. But there's a couple other key losses. Going for Baylor, I did not mention their game against SMU, in which they shut them out 45-0. But star quarterback Bryce Petty, he's going to be out for some weeks. I think he's not going to play for this matchup, for this upcoming matchup, because he cracked 2 parts of his 2 parts of his back near his vertebrae, and I think he could be gone for the season. But he's actually now day to day, and he's actually going to try to play next week, this upcoming week, and I'm a little bit concerned. And because of that, I don't really think Baylor's going to make it to that college football playoff. I actually had him going to the playoff this upcoming year, but if he's actually gone, this is a major concern for me, and I might have to go against Baylor. I'm just a little bit concerned. I'm going to keep you guys posted with this particular injury update. And last but not least, my Texas Longhorn David Ash. He suffered a concussion in last week's victory against North Texas, and he's going to be ruled out for this matchup, which means Tyrone Swoops, the distant cousin from star basketball player Sheryl Swoops, star and WNBA player Sheryl Swoops, he's going to be starting at quarterback. He does not have too much reps at quarterback in the collegiate level, but hopefully he's going to step it up, and this is going to be a tough matchup against BYU, who crushed us, especially with their rushing attack last season, and they're trying to avenge this loss. I'm a little bit concerned. I will give you guys an update with David Ash. He's definitely going to be gone for this week, and I'm going to give you my prediction this upcoming week come Thursday. I'm going to give you my college football preview on Thursday for week 2 of this season. So that wraps things up with the entire recap. There's some shift changes in the college football ranking. Georgia's actually now within the top 10, but there's some concern. Oh, I forgot one of the biggest games. I can't believe this. Kenny Hill and the Aggies, they pulled off a big victory over number 9, a thin number 9, South Carolina, and they actually crushed them well. They did a great performance, and Kenny Hill, he's actually my number 2 front runner of the Heisman Trophy this upcoming year. 511 yards passing and 3 TDs in that matchup, a big victory. This was actually a school record held by last year's quarterback, Johnny Manziel. He's definitely filling in the shoes, and some people are even already saying, Johnny who? Johnny who? Yeah, seriously. The kid is a beast, and I think everybody's going to be paying attention to him, especially in the SEC West Division. I think because of that game against Alabama and West Virginia, they better start getting their act together, because when they play against the Aggies, a better offense, a more high-tempo offense, they're going to actually get their butts handed to them. So they're going to have to get their act together. But that was a great victory for Kenny Hill and the Aggies. So the first game of the SEC, they're actually going to be ranked further down. They actually started off the season 21. Now, there's some people think they should get a top 10 bid because of that victory over South Carolina at South Carolina. And I think this was an impressive week, and now everybody has their attention towards Kenny Hill. He had a great week. Now, the next time to catch you guys will be on Thursday, where I will give you a preview of week 2 of the college football season. Now, representing the new football source, I'm your man, Akin McCall. Be easy.